My husband had an affair with a female university student, and in the end, she sued him back for rape. That girl brought evidence to me and demanded 2 million yuan. In my past life, I was so foolish that not only did I give her the money, but I even voluntarily signed a note saying it was a gift, just to retrieve the evidence and protect my husband's reputation. I had no idea it was all an act they staged to transfer all the assets out. In this life, after being reborn, I looked straight at that girl and sincerely said, "Let me help you hire a lawyer and sue him." Thanks to everyone for listening to stories on the channel. If you liked it, feel free to hit the subscribe button so you don't have to scroll endlessly next time to find this place again. That year, on May 20th, just like in my previous life, my husband said he had to work overtime at the company and didn't come home all night. By the next afternoon, the phone finally rang. As soon as I picked up, I heard soft breathing on the other end of the line. I knew immediately it was that female student. "Is this Ms. Tivu? I'm downstairs at your company. I'd like to meet you for a bit." I curled my lips into a cold smile, so it's finally happening. I put on an angry face and went straight downstairs, where I saw a young, beautiful girl who looked fragile and delicate. She nearly choked as she spoke. "Ms. T, my name is Tran Hu Kai. I've been in love with Mr. Tu Thang for 3 months. He told me he was divorced and single. Yesterday, he took me to a bar, he got me drunk. When I woke up, I found myself in a hotel room, my clothes torn, my body aching. He held me down and wouldn't let me go." Every word of this story was exactly the same as in my previous life. Back then, when I heard this part, it was like a bomb exploded in my head. I was completely blank. After all, Tu Thang and I had been married for many years. He had always appeared to be the perfect husband, honest, devoted, and caring for the family. He even carried my purse in public. After our daughter was born, he took care of everything, diaper changes, cleaning, all of it. Every cent he earned, he handed over to me. With a husband who loved his wife and children that much, who would suspect he could have an affair, especially since at that time, he didn't even have any money to his name. That's why, in my previous life, I fully believed that Tu Thang had been set up by this girl, especially when she demanded 2 million yuan. But she presented evidence of their relationship, and even a medical report from the hospital. I consulted my best friend, who was a lawyer. She said that if the case were turned over to the police, with such solid evidence, Tu Thang would definitely be convicted. There would be no way for him to escape. Tu Thang knelt before me, slapped himself repeatedly, cried and begged for forgiveness, saying he had been framed. He pleaded with me to save him, for the sake of our marriage and our child. I softened. Because of the years we spent together and thinking of our daughter, I gritted my teeth and sold all my original company shares, even sold the house we lived in, and poured all the money into saving him. Back then, Tran Hu Kai said, "Ms. T, the money must be transferred from your account directly to mine, and the note must clearly state it is a voluntary gift. Once I receive the money, I'll hand over all the evidence, and then I'll disappear, I'll never show up in front of you again." I did as she asked. I transferred the money exactly according to her instructions, got the evidence, and immediately destroyed it. I had no idea that very action would push me into a bottomless abyss with no way out. Pulling myself out of those memories, I looked coldly at the girl in front of me and said, "Sorry, but I'll be blunt. If you didn't agree, you shouldn't have been drinking." 3 months of dating, I scoffed. Already a mistress, and still pretending to be innocent and pure. She sniffled just like in the previous life, her face full of grievance. She handed me a copy of the hospital's injury report along with a photo of the two of them naked in bed. "Ms. T, I really didn't consent. What a performance. If I hadn't lived through it once before, I might still fall for that pitiful, fragile act. But now I knew, it was all a show she and Tu Thang had orchestrated together." Seeing that I stayed silent, she kept rambling on her own. "I'm not asking for much, just 2 million yuan. My family's poor, and my mother is seriously ill. She needs money for treatment. If not, I would have gone to the police already. This is a serious matter, you know. You don't want him caught up in legal trouble, right? I heard he's about to be promoted to deputy director. His annual salary will be over 1 million yuan then. Compared to that, this is nothing. Ms. T, I promise, once I get the money, I'll disappear and never bring this up again. This money isn't just about money, it's my mother's life." I gave a cold laugh. "Our family is just an ordinary household. Where do you expect me to dig up 2 million yuan to give you?" She wiped her tears and snuck a glance at me. But, Mr. Tu Thang said that 3 years ago, you held the company's original shares. If you sold them, you'd get even more than this. As expected, what they were after all along was the money I held. I took the copy of the medical report and the photo, massaging my forehead as I looked at the girl in front of me. This came too suddenly. I'll need time to think. That afternoon, I went back to work, but my mind wandered all over the place. I recalled the years I had spent with Tu Thang. We had met during our internship at the same company after graduating from university. He was tall, fair-skinned, scholarly, with a straight nose and always wore black-rimmed glasses. He looked refined and polite. As for me, I was never a striking beauty, but I came from a long line of intellectuals, 3 generations of teachers. Naturally, I had a scholarly air about me. At that time, my ex-boyfriend was about to study abroad. We had a mutual agreement to part ways. At the time when I was heartbroken, Tu Thang's gentle concern became an easy place for me to lean on. We quickly got together and were in love for over a year. Then he proposed, I agreed, and we went back to his hometown to meet his parents. Standing before the tall gate made of cracked yellow clay, I could hardly believe my eyes. The country had pushed for urbanization for so many years, yet there were still places this backward and impoverished. Tu Thang's parents were simple and honest-looking people. Their skin was darkened from years of sun and wind, but their smiles were incredibly sincere. Though their family situation was extremely difficult, during the days I stayed with them, they did their best to offer me everything they could. It was that sincerity that softened my heart and made me compromise. We held a wedding, bought a house, and had a child. Life slowly became a routine cycle of making ends meet. But the vast differences in culture and lifestyle between our families led to constant friction and arguments. If it hadn't been for Tu Thang's patience and how well he treated me, I probably wouldn't have been able to hold on. When our daughter was born, the grandparents' expressions were no longer as joyful. They kept using the excuse of the two-child policy to pressure me every day to give them a grandson. Fortunately, on this matter, Tu Thang and I saw eye to eye. Life in the city was already burdened with enough stress. Giving birth was just the beginning. Raising a child took time, energy, and money, no different from worshipping a little tyrant. I had never intended to become a full-time mother, and Tu Thang didn't want the additional financial pressure either. So we both agreed that one child was enough. However, that fragile balance was shattered when Tu Thang got promoted. 2 years ago, he was promoted to director, his income surged, and with it, his temperament began to change. Outwardly, he still treated me with the same affection, but in his words, he had started to hint at wanting a son. Quit your job, he said. Stay home and have another baby. I can provide for the whole family. I was raised in a disciplined, traditional family. As long as he wasn't cheating, I could tolerate the small flaws of daily life. But asking me to give up my career just to have another child and become a full-time housewife, I absolutely refused. I sat down and had a serious, honest conversation with him. He seemed understanding, promised to explain things to his parents himself, and said he wouldn't bring up the topic of a second child again. I thought the issue had been put to rest. Life continued peacefully afterward, and it was precisely that calmness that made me lower my guard. I never expected Tu Thang would cheat. In my past life, I gradually fell into the trap he had carefully laid out, dragged along by the script he'd written. Tu Thang recovered the damaging videos and photos, preserving his reputation. He held me, sobbing, saying, "Honey, I'll treat you well for the rest of my life." But as soon as he was promoted to deputy director, he instantly showed his true colors, filing for divorce and dragging me to court. The reason for the divorce was cited as irreconcilable emotional differences. The 2 million yuan I had transferred to Tran Hu Kai. He completely denied it, even countersuing me for illegally transferring marital assets. In the end, the court granted our divorce. Custody of our daughter went to him, and most of the assets, including that 2 million, were awarded to him. I couldn't give a reasonable explanation for why I had voluntarily transferred such a large sum to an outsider, so the entire amount was deemed marital property and split accordingly. I had no money left to fight back. When I went to confront him, I unexpectedly slipped and fell from a high step. When I opened my eyes, I had gone back in time, 1 month earlier. Perhaps even the heavens could no longer bear to see evil run rampant and me being such a pitiful fool. They gave me a second chance to go against fate and change everything. Now, everything is ready, just waiting for the eastern wind to rise. When I got home from work, I saw that Tu Thang had already returned. He hesitated when he saw me, quickly avoiding eye contact. Since our daughter was home, I held back for the time being and pretended not to know anything. I still cooked dinner, washed dishes, and cleaned up like every other day. While I was in the kitchen, I heard our daughter, Tutu, ask, "Daddy, what happened to your face? Did you fall down? Does it hurt, Daddy? Let me blow on it so it feels better." A warm home, a lovely daughter, yet Tu Thang could still secretly scheme to ruin me. Didn't his heart feel even a trace of guilt? After helping Tutu with her homework, giving her a bath, and tucking her into bed, I had just sat down on the sofa when Tu Thang suddenly dropped to his knees in front of me. He slid across the floor and started slapping himself repeatedly. His face swelled red, tears and snot streaming down. "Wife, I was wrong," just like in the previous life, he told a version of events slightly different from what Tran Hu Kai had claimed. He said that, in a drunken haze while entertaining clients, he had met a female student serving drinks. After drinking too much, and being egged on by the clients, he took her out of the karaoke room. But midway, the door was suddenly kicked open. A group of men stormed in, some with cameras, some yelling, some hitting. Tu Thang was dragged off the bed completely naked. The girl, seeing the tables turn, grabbed a man's leg and cried that she had been forced to drink and assaulted by Tu Thang. That she hadn't consented at all. Tu Thang was beaten half to death, caught red-handed with full evidence. They demanded 2 million yuan, threatening to take him to court otherwise. He had no choice but to transfer 50,000 yuan up front to buy time. He shakily unlocked his phone to show me. Just as I expected, the account was nearly empty, and the transfer note even stated, "Voluntary gift." Sobbing and hiccuping, he pleaded with me. "Wife, I'm sorry, I was really too drunk, too confused. I never meant for this to happen. Now they even have videos and photos. I'm about to be promoted to Deputy General Manager. If this leaks, my career is finished. You wouldn't be so heartless as to watch me fall, right?" I sat on the sofa, coldly watching him put on his act. Calmly, I said, "That girl came to see me today." You know?" He stammered. "I know." I looked straight into Tu Thang's eyes. "But what she said doesn't match your story," she told me. I emphasized every word. "You two were in a relationship." Tu Thang nearly jumped up, pretending to be utterly outraged. "What? A prostitute dares to talk about being in love with me?" In my past life, I was deceived by his brilliant acting. He swore to the heavens, even almost swearing on the lives of his parents and the honor of his ancestors. I foolishly believed he had only made a momentary mistake, so while cursing the other party for setting him up, I obediently agreed to give him money to settle everything. But in this life, I've completely woken up. Out of nowhere, I asked, "You said you only went halfway? That means you two actually did it. So you weren't as drunk and out of control as you claim." Tu Thang froze. No, it's not like that, honey. Don't fixate on those little details. The main issue is they have videos and photos now." The more he spoke, the quieter his voice became. I sneered coldly. "What? Someone says you assaulted them, and you just admit it? Do they have evidence? Look at you now, beaten to a pulp. Call the police. I'll even countersue them for assault." With that, I pretended to grab my phone and dial 110. Tu Thang panicked and quickly snatched the phone, hiding it behind his back. "No police, we can't call the cops." Clutching the phone, he looked at me, trembling, and stammered. That happened the second time we got caught, and she said she liked it rough, so I tore her clothes and hit her a few times. Honey, I swear, it was just the alcohol messing with my head." Smack! I slapped Tu Thang with all my strength, so hard that my palm went numb. He was stunned and couldn't react. Smack! I hit him again while he was still in shock, grabbed his hair, kicking and biting, screaming and crying like I'd lost my mind. "I'll beat you to death, you despicable bastard, you still have the nerve to pull such filthy stunts?" Tu Thang ran away, trying to dodge my blows, crying out, Honey, I was wrong." Maybe I'd beaten him past his patience, because he suddenly pushed me hard, knocking me to the ground. "Tivu, are you crazy? You're insane." I sat on the floor. The fall made my tailbone ache, but that pain was nothing compared to the icy rage rising in my chest. Looking at Tu Thang's face, swollen like a pig's head, I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Some of the hatred in my heart eased. "Crazy, Tu Thang, think about it. How old are you now? You're 38. You have elderly parents, a young child, your career's soaring, you're about to be promoted. And yet you still mess around like that? Are you brain dead? I stood up and pointed at his face, shouting. Tu Thang choked up, then tilted his chin up with a defiant look. Well, it's already happened. What can I do now? Just pay them off. Money, I sneered. You think 2 million yuan is like 200 bucks? Where would we even get that kind of money? You think 20 million yuan is as easy as begging for alms? I spoke coldly. This is blackmail. We should call the police. At worst, go to court and accept the verdict. Tu Thang clung tightly to my leg. Please, honey, we can't go to the police. If we do, I'll go to jail. HMPH, then go to jail. What does that have to do with me? I'm not the one going to prison. Even if you won't think about me, you should think about Tu too. If he hadn't brought up that name, it would have been fine. But the moment he mentioned Tu, my anger flared even more violently. In my previous life, after the divorce, custody of Tu was given to him, but he didn't bother caring for our child. He immediately pulled Tu out of school and sent him back to the countryside to live with his elderly parents. Smack, I slapped him again, hard, my entire body trembled with rage. You still have the face to mention Tu? You're not worthy. But Tu Thang still held tightly to my leg, refusing to let go no matter how I yelled, insulted, or hit him. Inside, I sneered. For the sake of 2 million yuan, he even threw away his last shred of dignity. I shook his grip off. Give me the phone, I'm calling Go Deep Ham for advice. Go Deep Ham was my best friend, and a lawyer. When he heard that, Tu Thang froze. A flash of hope passed through his eyes, quickly hidden. Honey, does that mean you believe me now? But could you not tell her this was my fault? I let out a cold snort. You mean, you want me to lie for you? The phone connected. Hey babe, calling so late, did you miss me? Go Deep Ham's sleepy voice came through. I turned my back to Tu Thang and stepped out onto the balcony, trying to keep my voice steady, though my nose stung with held-back tears. Deep Ham, I have something I want to ask you. There was a pause on the line. Then she asked gently, what's wrong, sweetheart? I took a deep breath and forced myself to keep it simple. Have you heard of something called a romantic trap? A friend of mine just went through something like that. I briefly explained the situation. In a case like this, would there be any chance of winning in court? Did it really happen? Deep Ham's voice dropped low. I answered hoarsely, I heard it happen twice. She was silent for a long time, then spoke in a serious tone. To be honest, it's very hard to win. Based on what you described, the evidence is clear, and the woman is firmly sticking to her story. The chances of being convicted for rape are extremely high. Sure enough, it was the same answer as in my past life. I sighed. I understand. Who's involved? She asked. I looked out the window. Shadows of trees swayed faintly in the darkness. Who else could it be? Tu Thang. What? Go Deep Ham nearly shouted. Your husband? No way. I broke into sobs. You think so too, right? He said he was drunk and tricked, that it wasn't his fault. Even through the phone, I could feel her confusion. After all, in my past life, I never told her the full story. So what are you planning to do? She asked. I was quiet for a while before responding. Deep Ham, if you take on this case, would we have any chance of winning? Are you crazy? They haven't even filed a lawsuit. Are you seriously thinking of turning him in yourself? What if he is convicted? What about you? What about Tu? If this goes public, people will talk behind your back. She broke it down clearly, point by point. I lowered my voice, feeling deflated. I don't want to, but we're talking about 2 million yuan. I know it's blackmail. How can I just swallow my anger? Exactly. Tu Thang dares to act so recklessly because he knows our lives are so entangled. A child, shared assets, that even for Tu's sake, I wouldn't dare blow things up. Go Deep Ham softened her tone. Listen to me. A peaceful family life, isn't that what you've always wanted? Normally, Tu Thang treats you well, doesn't he? And he said it himself. He was drunk, and got tricked. I understand this is hard for you, and painful, and that you can't accept it right away. But deep down, the feelings between you two aren't completely broken. I hope you can calm down and think this through. When I didn't speak for a long time, she gently added. Rest for now. Sleep on it, and think it over calmly. No matter what decision you make, I'll always support you. I nodded softly. Okay, I understand. Thank you. After hanging up, I stared at the phone in my hand. the exact same model as mine, and suddenly laughed. After coming back to life, I had intentionally switched to the same phone model that Tu Thang used. He never paid attention to little details like that. He probably didn't even realize that he just gave me his phone by mistake. He picked up the call and blurted out, "Babe, go deep ham, Tu Thang. Just when did the two of you start seeing each other?" In my past life, up until the very end, I had always believed the woman he cheated with was the university student, Tran Hu Kai. After all, Tu Thang and Go Deep Ham had never once shown anything in public. Go Deep Ham always stood by my side, even scolded Tu Thang more harshly than I did. I never expected that all my doubts would only be answered on the day I came back to life. Right after being reborn, my mind was still foggy, so I pulled over to the side of the road. Unexpectedly, a colleague jokingly stuck a fake parking ticket on my windshield. I thought it was real and panicked, immediately logging into the 12.123 app to check for any violations. I didn't expect that, when checking the history, I would discover there had been 3 traffic violations in the past year. I frowned. Tu Thang always boasted about being an exceptional driver. Every time I drove, he'd sit in the passenger seat criticizing everything, acting like a know-it-all. If I ran over a manhole cover, I'd get scolded. If I changed lanes a beat too slow, I'd get scolded. If I took the wrong route because I couldn't tell left from right, well, don't even mention it. If I had ever committed a traffic violation, he certainly wouldn't have missed the chance to mock me for being a woman behind the wheel. Thinking about it, I felt something was off. I opened each item one by one to look more carefully. One of the 3 violations was for both the driver and passenger not wearing seat belts. That surprised me. Although Tu Thang was sometimes lazy and would fasten the belt behind the seat just to turn off the warning, I always buckled up properly when sitting in the passenger seat. If the violation had been because I didn't wear a seatbelt, he definitely would have called to scold me harshly. I opened the violation photo, and went numb. The person in the passenger seat was a woman. Her face wasn't clearly visible, but it was definitely not me. Neither she nor Tu Thang was wearing a seatbelt because he was leaning over, touching her chest. At first, I thought it was Tran Hu Kai, the schoolgirl from my past life memory. But when I zoomed in, I saw a faint tattoo of a red rose on her neck. Go Deep Ham had the exact same tattoo. When she was young, she had a scald scar there from boiling water, so when she grew up, she tattooed a rose to cover it. I was the one who accompanied her to get that tattoo. The moment I realized it, my mind went blank. I immediately reopened the traffic app and checked carefully again. The violation happened during the Lunar New Year holiday. I dug into my WeChat message history. "Wifey, I've driven back near home already. Look, even in winter this tree is still so lush and green." At that time, our family of 3, Tu Thang, Tu, and I, had just returned from a trip to another province and still had a few days off. Tu Thang said he wanted to visit his parents back home. I had a fever then, so he kindly told me to stay and rest, that he'd go alone. He was gone for 3 days. During that time, other than the photo of the tree and that one message before coming back, he didn't contact me at all. Coincidentally, Go Deep Ham also said she was traveling then. I checked her moments history and, to my shock, found a photo of the same tree and the same house in the background, just taken from a different angle. Back then, I hadn't paid any attention. Turns out, going back home was just an excuse. The truth was, they had gone on a trip together. I looked at Tu Thang's message again and couldn't help but scoff. So he was mocking me even then. How ridiculous. And I was still too naive to realize it. That leafy green tree was nothing compared to the crown of green leaves he put on my head. Looking back at everything from my past life, I finally understood why I had lost so miserably. It wasn't Tran Hu Kai who was my true rival, it was my dearest, most trusted friend, Go Deep Ham. She and Tu Thang, one played the victim, the other the mastermind. They coordinated so perfectly, like they were made for each other, weaving a flawless trap that led me into their web step by step. In the end, I collapsed completely, lost everything. But now, I laughed. They had handed me the opportunity on a silver platter, so don't blame me for striking back without mercy. Just as I expected, the next morning, Tu Thang sneaked out under the pretense of going to work to meet with Go Deep Ham. In the car, the hidden camera I had installed recorded everything clearly. The car drove to a remote area. I heard Go Deep Ham coldly question him. "What the hell happened last night? I thought it was you, that's why I said, darling, on the phone. Unexpectedly, it was Tivu's voice that answered. *T, I was scared to death. Tu Thang quickly tried to smooth things over, soothing her and explaining non-stop. He said that while plotting with me last night, I nearly called the police, and then they accidentally swapped phones. Go Deep Ham suspiciously asked, how could she unlock your phone? Tu Thang paused for a second and replied, she set her fingerprint back when I first got the phone. He was so careless it was laughable. Under her reminder, Tu Thang panicked and changed the password, deleting my fingerprint from the phone. But it didn't matter. I already had everything I needed. The bank transfer records, the shameless messages between them on their alternate WeChat accounts, and their entire secret conversation outlining their plan. Then I heard something nauseating. Go Deep Ham pinched his ear. I told you to just act with Tran Hu Kai, and you really went and touched her? Tu Thang begged desperately. No, I only tricked her. I swear, nothing happened. Don't you know me? You're the only one I care about. And I'm not stupid. If something really did happen, what if Tran Hu Kai turned on me and sued? Go Deep Ham coldly snorted. Good that you understand. If you ever mess around again, I'll personally throw you in jail. No, no one compares to you in this life. My love, it's been half a month. I missed you so much I'm going crazy. Wait. Did you turn off the dash cam? Yes, it's off. I'm dying to see you. And then came a series of indescribable sounds. I couldn't be bothered to listen. I just sat at home, calmly enjoying music. One Lala band song hadn't even finished yet. The footage from the camera had stopped shaking. Is that all? I really couldn't understand what Go Deep Ham saw in Tu Thang. While adjusting her clothes, Go Deep Ham asked, what about Tran Hu Kai? Can she be trusted? Tu Thang replied confidently, she's just an intern at my company. Her family's poor. All it took was one act. Don't worry, I have her in the palm of my hand. Really? If he truly had her in his grasp, then how come Tu Thang still didn't know the girl had gone to the hospital on her own for a blood test, documented her injuries, and preserved all the evidence? If someone dares to dive into such a dirty game, would they really be that easy to manipulate? I called Tran Hu Kai and asked to meet her. As soon as we sat down, I bluntly demanded more evidence. Miss Tran, you gave me this little and you're asking for 2 million yuan. Do you think that's reasonable? Tran Hu Kai, still young and naive, stared at me in confusion. Let me make a call first. I calmly sipped my coffee and watched her through the glass as she nervously held her phone, frowning and nodding repeatedly. A few minutes later, she returned and pulled a USB from her bag. Give it to me. She tried to act tough. Probably someone had just coached her to make a threat, but she still stammered. This is just a copy. The originals are still on my computer and in my email. I also have the original medical injury report from the hospital. I will never give that to you. I opened my laptop and checked the USB. Inside was a video of Tu Thang and her rolling around on a bed, engaging in all kinds of wild and depraved behavior. It was hard to watch. But to anyone who didn't know the truth, the video looked exactly like a violent assault. So when I got home, I used the excuse of being angry to give Tu Thang a thorough beating. His left cheek hadn't even healed yet when I gave his right side another round. Both sides were swollen, round and perfectly symmetrical. I threw the USB at him and shouted coldly, take a good look, you call this something a human would do? Tu Thang avoided my gaze, flustered. Baby, it's not what you think. This is a total setup. I sat down on the sofa, hair a mess, breathing heavily, staring coldly at him. So what now? We don't have enough money to pay her 2 million. Tu Thang tiptoed over and sat beside me. How much money do we have left? I counted everything, 280,000 in savings. My company shares, after tax, would get us another 1.2 million. That still leaves a 500,000 shortfall. Where are you planning to get that from? He hesitated for a while, then suggested, how about we sell the house? Sell the house? I jumped up, furious. Are you serious? What about Tutu's future? What, the whole family will go live under a bridge now? I screamed. He panicked and covered his head, running away. Or, maybe we could borrow the money from your cousin. We can say we're buying a house. I had a cousin who grew up with me. We were very close. He took over his family's business and became very successful. A few 100,000 was nothing to him. But for Tu Thang to shamelessly come up with such an idea, I honestly couldn't bring myself to respect him. Right in front of him, I called my cousin and simply said I needed to borrow some money. He agreed immediately, only requesting one condition. 10% interest, 1-year term. I crossed my arms and said calmly. And of course, we'll be signing a loan agreement. Tu Thang hesitated, his eyes flickering. After a while, he gritted his teeth and agreed. All right. He personally wrote a promissory note for 500,000, carefully including his full name, ID number, and a fingerprint. I also signed and added my fingerprint as witness. I took a photo of the note and sent it to my cousin. He trusted me completely and immediately transferred the 500,000 to my account. Then I had Tu Thang write a receipt for repayment and sent that to my cousin as well. I sealed both the loan agreement and receipt in an envelope and carefully stored them in the drawer beside our bed, to give to my cousin next time he came by. Tu Thang acted like he didn't care. Fine, you keep them. That night, while I pretended to be asleep, he quietly got up and secretly shredded both the promissory note and the receipt into pieces. The next morning, he went to work as if nothing had happened. I stood by the window, watching his car disappear from the residential complex before turning around and pulling out the two original documents, the loan agreement and the repayment receipt, from under my pillow. I had already anticipated this trick of his and had prepared two identical sets of documents. Tu Thang had a habitual quirk when writing financial numbers. He only wrote them in Arabic numerals, never in Chinese characters. That worked in my favor. I quietly added a 2 in front of the original 500,000. Looking at the neatly written 2,500,000 on the paper, I couldn't help but chuckle inside. That 2.5 million marked the end of my foolish past life and served as a fitting blessing for Tu Thang in this one. Using the excuse that I needed more time to gather the money, I intentionally delayed for 2 more days before setting up a meeting with Tran Hu Kai. I opened my phone to show her the balance in my bank account, then calmly stated my terms. Hand over all the evidence, and only then will I transfer the money. Tran Hu Kai brought a file bag containing all the related materials, except for the original copy of the hospital's injury report. I pretended to look through the documents and asked, "Where's the original injury report?" "I'll hand it over once I receive the money," she replied. I coldly shot back, "How can I trust you haven't kept a copy? How do I know you won't come back to blackmail us again later?" Tran Hu Kai glared at me, frustrated. "All the documents are here. What more do you want? Do you think I wanted this to happen? I come from a respectable family, and I was properly educated too." I crossed my arms and sneered, "Save it. Don't try to impress me with your respectable background." Then I pressed further. Tu Thang said there were other people present at the scene, right? Can you guarantee they won't use this to extort money too? After all, I'm giving the money to you, not them. Tran Hu Kai bit her lip, trying to keep her composure. "They won't. They don't have any documents. Everything is with me." I stared at her, inwardly amused. Really? They have nothing? Weren't they just pawns Tu Thang and Go Deep Ham planted to ensure you wouldn't dare run off or flip the script? I quickly shoved the document folder into my coat. "All the better," I said with a smile, then continued slowly. "Miss Tran, considering the trauma you've been through, as a fellow woman, I genuinely feel for you. Even though the one who did this to you is my husband." I smiled calmly and said, "I've already helped you file the complaint." Then, I emphasized, "I've also hired you a lawyer." As soon as I finished speaking, the door opened and Go Deep Ham walked in. I flashed a brilliant smile and waved, "Over here, Deep Ham." Then I turned to Tran Hu Kai and said, "I support you. Go ahead and sue Tu Thang to hell and back. And you'd better think hard. Are you going to accuse him of rape, or are you planning to change your story and risk me suing you for extortion instead? 2 million yuan isn't a small amount. That's enough jail time to last you several years." "I've recorded our entire conversation today." I pointed toward the door. "Look, police are here." That move of mine stunned all three of them, leaving them frozen and caught off guard. Tu Thang never would have guessed that I was the one who filed the report against him. Especially since I had even put on a concerned face days ago, helping him figure out how to scrape together 2 million yuan. He had walked into that company meeting feeling completely at ease. He calmly waited for me to pay the price for his peace of mind. He even planned to smoothly get a promotion right after I handed over the money, then conveniently file for divorce and accuse me of transferring assets during the marriage. But instead of receiving good news, What came knocking was the police, who arrested him right at the company. Tu Thang struggled like a madman, nearly earning himself an extra charge for resisting law enforcement. "I haven't committed a crime. On what grounds are you arresting me?" he shouted. The police pinned him to the ground coldly, their eyes full of contempt. Tu Thang's reputation collapsed completely. News of the scandal spread rapidly and even got sensationalized. His company didn't wait for the investigation results. They immediately cancelled his promotion and fired him under the pretext of violating internal regulations. His parents, upon hearing the news, rushed from their rural hometown to the city in a panic. By then, I had already completed the school transfer for Tutu and taken our child back to live in the city where my own parents reside. Oh my God, how could it end up like this? How could my son rape a college girl? Tu Thang's mother cried and pointed at me, yelling, "And you, why did you call the police?" I wiped my tears and choked out a sob. "Mom, I trusted Tu Thang. But the girl demanded 2 million yuan. Where could I possibly find that much money? If I didn't call the police, what else could I have done?" I cried even louder than she did, looking more pitiful and wrong than anyone else. After all, who better to play the role of a desperate, heartbroken wife in this situation than me? Hearing 2 million yuan, Tu Thang's mother immediately clutched her head, crying out to the heavens and cursing wildly, screaming about suing Tran Hu Kai for extortion. After multiple interrogations, even though her statements had some inconsistencies, Tran Hu Kai stubbornly insisted that she had been raped by Tu Thang. Fortunately, behind this entire setup was a professional lawyer who had orchestrated everything. So despite her messy testimony, the collected evidence was more than enough to shatter any resistance from Tu Thang. As for Go Deep Ham, she initially thought I had asked to meet so I could hand over all the evidence for her to keep. She didn't expect me to smile and ask directly, "Do you want to take this case and represent Tran Hu Kai?" Hilarious. In my previous life, I had naively handed her the evidence, only for her and Tu Thang to destroy it together. But this time, if life is a stage, then I'll act to the very end. Acting. Who can't win Best Actress? Go Deep Ham questioned me, "Why didn't you discuss this with me first?" I calmly put on a righteous face, "Because I believe my husband is innocent." "You believe him? Then why ask me to take the case for that girl?" she asked in disbelief, eyes wide. I replied nonchalantly, "Because I believe in you. I wouldn't feel safe letting anyone else take the case." She stared at me suspiciously. "Tivu, what exactly are you thinking? I really can't understand you anymore." No surprise there. I had never truly shown her my real self all these years. She asked what I was thinking. I just wanted her to personally witness how the true love she so desperately supported had taken advantage of the situation to betray her. Now that is the perfect ending to their so-called pure romance. Dear best friend. In the end, Go Deep Ham didn't dare to represent Tran Hu Kai. I suspect the real reason is that Tu Thang has something on her. As long as she stays hidden and continues secretly helping him behind the scenes, he won't drag her down with him. That's fine. I'll take care of it myself. 3 months after Tu Thang's detention, the trial began. When the prosecution presented the video evidence, blood tests, and medical reports, Tu Thang still looked completely dumbfounded, having no idea what was happening. But the one more shocked than him was Go Deep Ham. One of them never expected that the little rabbit he raised would keep the evidence and bite back. The other never imagined that her so-called true love had truly committed a crime, pretending to be innocent while acting guilty. The truth was undeniable, and the evidence was overwhelming. Tu Thang was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Right after the verdict was announced, his mother fainted in court. As for Tu Thang, he glared furiously at Tran Hu Kai and shouted that he would appeal. I didn't care whether he appealed or not. This time, I personally reached out to Go Deep Ham's longtime rival in the legal field and asked them to represent me in filing for divorce. Now that Tu Thang was a convicted criminal being held for a felony, that gave me a significant advantage in the divorce proceedings. At the same time, I filed a countersuit against Tran Hu Kai for extortion under my own name. While the lawyer was still preparing the divorce documents, I submitted a request to visit Tu Thang. Through the glass partition, I saw his haggard and sunken face, his eyes dark and filled with hatred. Tu Thang choked out, Why would you sue me? Have you thought about Tutu's future? How will she survive?" I curled my lips into a cold smile. Tu Thang, when you did those disgusting things, did you ever think about Tutu's future? Of course not. Because in your mind, I, your wife, would never have the courage to bring you to court and make you take responsibility for your crimes. Tu Theng lowered his voice and shouted, I didn't do it, Tran Hu Kai falsely accused me. I raised an eyebrow and responded slowly, oh, seems like the judge didn't agree with you. He panicked and desperately tried to defend himself. Believe me, go talk to Go Deep Ham. She has evidence that proves Tran Hu Kai lied. I stared straight at him, my voice ice cold. What evidence? Why would she have that evidence? Tu Theng had no idea I already knew about his collusion with Go Deep Ham. When I pressed him, he stammered and couldn't come up with an answer, eventually just mumbling the same line. She has the evidence, that's all. I furrowed my brows, deliberately acting doubtful. Could it be that she told me to call the police that night because she had the evidence? Tu Theng froze. What? I continued calmly. That night I called Deep Ham. She told me that to be safe, I should call the police. Who knows, maybe you were the one who staged the whole thing to transfer assets. I watched as Tu Theng's expression shifted rapidly, from shock to stiffness, then finally clenched his teeth in fury. That bitch. So much for their so-called forbidden love, turned out it wasn't so solid after all. When I got home, I saw Go Deep Ham standing downstairs waiting. Where did you go? She asked the moment she saw me. I stood there, looking at her indifferently. We had been classmates in high school, then later in college. She studied law, I studied construction cost management. We'd been friends for so many years and had once been very close. She used to call herself a staunch believer in singlehood, often mocking me for getting married and having kids, jokingly pinching her nose and saying, T-Vu, even if you've got a husband to share the burdens of life, you can't just let yourself go and become a frumpy housewife. Honestly, even if I lived life over again, compared to her dazzling and seductive appearance, I'd still look more like a family woman. But what I didn't expect was that while I had never given up on myself, she would be the first to betray our friendship. When did she and Tu Theng start? I searched my memory. Was it the time she got drunk at my house and I asked Tu Theng to take her home because I was busy taking care of Tutu? Or was it when Tu Theng's company needed a legal advisor and I naively introduced her? But thinking back now, do those details even matter anymore? The most important thing is that, after reliving my life, the power to decide life and death is in my hands. I said I was going to visit Tu Theng. Go Deep Ham stepped closer and cautiously asked, you didn't even think about Tutu's future and still pushed Tu Theng into jail. Now you're even suing Tran Hu Kai for blackmail. T-Vu, why are you doing this? I sighed, my voice calm. Deep Ham, I am not just a wife, a mother. I am also a woman. Tu Theng truly committed a crime. A criminal one. I continued coldly, how could I turn a blind eye? I paused briefly, deliberately stretching my words. But just now, Tu Theng mentioned. Go Deep Ham immediately tensed up and asked intently, mentioned what? I smirked, my gaze indifferent. He said, you're holding evidence that could prove he's innocent. I was just about to ask you about it. Go Deep Ham was startled, stepping back in shock, hurriedly denying it. Nonsense. What do I have to do with Tu Theng? What evidence would I possibly have? If I had it, I would have given it to you long ago. Why would I hide it? I chuckled coldly. Yeah, I thought the same. My eyes casually drifted to her perfectly flat stomach, and I spoke slowly, with layered meaning. I also hope Tu Theng is innocent, so I asked someone to pass a message to Tran Hu Kai. If she thinks it through, maybe she'll admit to the blackmail. Who knows, Tu Theng might still have a chance to overturn the verdict. Go Deep Ham's face turned pale instantly, and her voice trembled. What? I sighed again, pretending to be heartbroken. Deep Ham, please understand. As a mother, I don't want Tutu's future to be haunted by the disgrace of a father in jail. Everything unfolded exactly as I had predicted. The evidence Tu Theng referred to was a contract he and Tran Hu Kai signed after conspiring together. That contract was in Go Deep Ham's possession. It confirmed their consensual cooperation and outlined the payment promised to Tran Hu Kai. It showed that she fully understood the plan and agreed from the beginning. But neither Go Deep Ham nor Tran Hu Kai expected that Tu Theng would pretend to be sincere. To prevent Tran Hu Kai from backing out after taking the money, Tu Theng not only slept with her but also hired someone to film everything. Tran Hu Kai, though filled with hatred, had no choice but to follow through with the plan and come to me for money. Little did she know, not only did I refuse to yield, I also reported Tu Theng and countersued Tran Hu Kai for blackmail. If the contract was made public, Tran Hu Kai would almost certainly lose. Her crime would be undeniable. But the contract had now vanished. Go Deep Ham had once locked it in a safe, yet it somehow disappeared. My lawyer, who also happened to be Go Deep Ham's longtime rival in the legal field, sat across from me and asked, "How are you so sure Go Deep Ham would give the contract to Tran Hu Chi's boyfriend?" I smirked and calmly replied, "Because she's also a mother." The tragedy of Tran Hu Kai was that she came from a difficult background, forced to collaborate with Tu Thang for money. But she was lucky to have a boyfriend who loved her deeply. He went straight to Go Deep Ham and her son, using the child's safety to threaten her into handing over the contract, one that disadvantaged Tran Hu Kai and might even exonerate Tu Thang. I had never seen that child. It was only after reliving my life that I hired a private investigator and learned he was already a year old. The son Tu Thang had long desired was the reason he plotted so cruelly to divorce me, wanting to strip me of everything, not leaving a single penny. I nodded lightly to the lawyer across from me, leaving the rest to him. Tu Thang's sentence remained unchanged at 7 years in prison. As for Tran Hu Kai, although her actions were clear, she was also a victim and had not truly profited. The court issued a lenient sentence. The missing contract and all the data I had previously collected from Tu Thang's phone and computer were submitted as evidence. As a result, Tran Hu Kai filed a counter-lawsuit against both Tu Thang and Go Deep Ham. With all the evidence in place, Go Deep Ham's rival, who was also my lawyer, did not miss this opportunity. Go Deep Ham was convicted of knowingly breaking the law, inciting crime, and was ultimately sentenced. Her law license was revoked, she was expelled from her law firm, and her name blacklisted from the legal field. Even after serving time, she would never find a prestigious job again. My divorce case proceeded smoothly. In the division of marital assets, the 2.5 million I had strategically arranged was recognized as being spent on Tu Thang's legal fees. The remaining assets were deducted to repay the debt I had borrowed from my cousin. The marriage ended with nothing. In fact, Tu Thang ended up owing me a large sum. I also submitted the DNA test results and evidence of their cohabitation. Though Tu Thang and Go Deep Ham had not registered their marriage, he had left behind a son, even hiring a nanny and enrolling the child in a preschool near Go Deep Ham's home, claiming parental status. Although the court ultimately did not charge Tu Thang with illegal marriage, I regained full custody of Tu and claimed all family assets. What satisfied me most was that the villains paid the price they deserved. As for Tu Thang's parents, though heartbroken by their son's imprisonment, perhaps their sorrow was somewhat eased, because they finally had the grandson they had always dreamed of. After the divorce ruling, I sold the house, resigned from my job, and took Tu back to the city where my parents lived. As I stepped out of the airport under the clear blue sky and warm sunlight, I saw my elderly parents standing there, holding Tu's hand. "Mom, Mom," Tu ran into my arms.